Hello and welcome to With Open It's Possible, the 2023 Open Ed virtual conference hosted by Texas Tech University Libraries. We want this to be a welcoming space. Any form of harassment will not be tolerated and may result in removal from the virtual conference. As a courtesy to our speakers, please keep yourself muted, and we encourage you to turn off your video during the presentation. This session is being recorded and will be posted on the library's YouTube channel after the conference has completed. Closed captioning has also been enabled. And I'm going to post a link in the chat box. This link will take you to the conference homepage, where you will find a brief description of the conference, presentation schedule for the week, and information about our keynote speaker. Please use the chat feature to submit questions at any time. I will be monitoring questions as they come in and ask them to the presenters during the Q&A portion of the presentation. If you'd like to ask a question anonymously, please chat with me directly and make sure to indicate that this is an anonymous question. You're also welcome to turn on your camera and verbally ask questions during the Q&A portion. So now I'd like to introduce our presenter for this session, which is Skills Beyond the Classroom, Student-Created OER. Our speaker this afternoon is Dr. Leah Carruth, who is Associate Professor in the Department of Teacher Education at Angelo State, and we're glad that she can join us this afternoon. Welcome, Leah. And the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm very happy to be here and be able to share a little bit about what my students are doing here at ASU. Again, I'm Leah Carruth, and I'm going to go ahead and start with how I got started. Oh, sorry, hit the mouse too many times. All right, so how it all began for me is I participated in a Branch Ed Summer Institute in 2021. I'd heard about OER, but not really enough to know even the specifics about what it actually meant. So during the Summer Institute, I created an OER module that I use in one of our reading courses in our teacher certification program. And through that process, I learned that there is limited availability out there for the concepts that I need to teach in my courses. There's not a lot of textbooks or article options at this time. And the topic I selected is just really often misunderstood. And it's required for them to really understand this to be an effective elementary teacher. So within my senior level class, they've always had this inquiry project. And the inquiry project in of itself was fine. They had to research a topic from a list I provided, and then they had to present to their peers in class and teach them about that topic. But it never went further than that. And I'm always a proponent of how can we use what we're doing in our classroom and make it larger, make it more than just for me, the teacher who assigned the task. So for this, I automatically thought about this senior level class after I completed the Summer Institute and realized their inquiry project absolutely could work to help them understand how to begin building OER materials. So the OER that they create is part of their presentation, but it encompasses everything they've learned about that project. And the pictures that are right here on the screen, these are just 3 of the snapshots of some of their OER they've created. And you can see, looking at the numbers at the bottom, that people outside of their peers are looking at their creations, but not only looking, they're starting to save their creations, which means they find it valuable and they are actually using it in their own means, whether that be as a classroom setting or just because they like the material that's being presented. So this is just the heading for our group. We make a new group every semester. I provide a template for my students to use, so they're not doing this from the very beginning. group, and it's a very simple template. It has 3 sections and they take it from there. I do this because the particular site we use, which is oercommons.org, I'll show it in a little bit. They do vet everything that comes through, which is wonderful. We don't want it just to be posted up for everyone to be able to put whatever they want. So it allows my students to publish under a vetted author, since I have already created and uploaded various files within this website. So how this works for my students is they're invited into my group each semester, and they have to create an account. I prefer it with their school email, but honestly, if they're creating it with an email outside, that just means they'll have access after they graduate. One student does need to take a lead in creating all of the group members, and that's a limitation that I will come back to on another slide. For my portion in this, I do model what expectations are. I go through the OER that I created myself, so they can see kind of a formatting and the different ways they can look at this. So the students are provided a series of videos, everything from editing the template to creating their resources that are Creative Commons resources, and how do you cite those differently than you do for APA citation they normally use. Locating Creative Commons materials in this site that we use, but also beyond that in articles and textbooks. And other information that's important to creating the OER modules, because I want the information that's out there to be accurate and to look well done, so it shows them in good faith and is a reflection of us as a positive. And then students work with their group inside and outside of class to create their OER. We have a couple of days within class that we work on these so they can have that immediate help and feedback. And then they present it to the class on the given day. And within that time frame, it's not only teaches each other how they went through this process, but it also teaches them the information being taught. Some of the topics we select from are gifted and talented education, emergent bilinguals, parent relations, things that they may not get enough of within their courses. And here's how we can give them that little bit extra of an edge on these topics. So as I mentioned, there are some downfalls to the particular site we use. My intention was never to create a full textbook or anything like that. What I do like about this website at the bottom, the oercommons.org, is that it allows you to work in modules. If you want to create something that is more intense and more in depth, you are absolutely welcome to. This works for me and the level of my students in teacher education, because I can break everything down into smaller chunks. And so it's easier to manage the mountains of information they're responsible for. So one limitation, and several students did comment on this, only one author at a time can edit in the module. So that's why I have one student become the lead and add everyone else's authors, but they have to make sure they're not on there at the same time. And then there's honestly just a lack of time to focus specifically on OER within the course, but we keep coming back to it throughout the semester. And then this particular site, part of the reason we've done this is there are a lack of OER resources on the topics that we choose in class. And I preface that at the beginning, like, this is not going to be easy. Some of you may find nothing that you can use, and you're going to have to be creative. We're going to have to look other places. We're going to have to really build the OER materials. And some of them have embraced that, and others have kind of shied away and want it to just be a PowerPoint they put up at the end of class one day. And then, of course, anytime we work with groups can be interesting for our students to do. Here is a quote that I just thought stood out to me from this particular semester. We did these in February. This project was not just for grade, it was actually beneficial for us as current students, and it is something that we can look back at as a reference once we have graduated and are out working. That right there was the key for me. I knew that they were getting more out of this, and this was a skill that they could take with them within education and continue to create and make their own ideas and find value in what they're doing. It's not just for me as a grade. Let's look beyond that. And this right here is evidence to me that they're starting to see that. So here's just a little bit more information. On the bottom left where we have activity 3, this is one where it's a particular game that is not Creative Commons. And so the student had the actual pictures from that person's website and things, and we cannot do that. When we're making them within this website, everything has to be Creative Commons or has to be cited accordingly. And they did not have either. So we talked about it and they went in and they created their own visual to be able to incorporate here. So they're learning what Creative Commons means, what the different licenses mean, and what you're able to use and not use. In the top right, we have another aspect of students who did understand this. They understand not only how to use the sources, but also how to go in and balance their ideas. It's not just a whole lot of text and then all your citations at the bottom. They break up the page, and further down the page, which is not included, are videos about this same topic. And then we just have a couple of more quotes here from students, and I was asked for feedback. Another small piece of feedback would be to possibly make it a requirement to ask a current educator about their experience with the topic the group is researching. We're actually doing that. We've already incorporated that, and it'll be in there for the next time. But the students are understanding the value of what they're doing, but how can we make it even better? And then for the second feedback over here, the process would be a 4-star rating. And I'm like, as an instructor, that's amazing. I couldn't believe that happened. So this activity was very helpful to get a deeper meaning of content, learning centers, instead of just broad knowledge of the topic. It helped us narrow down a specific grade levels, characteristics needed, their subject, and a role as that grade level. They thought it was great because it was not only useful to them, but it's useful to others outside of ASU. So one thing is just helping to empower our students and understand. This right here is they learned how to make some of their own graphics, yes, through Canva, but they're learning how to get their own information out on the public domain through Creative Commons. So not only are they creating it for class, but now others can use it as well. So that's kind of how I've incorporated using OER within my classroom setting.
Okay, thank you for that very interesting presentation, Leah. And we'll now open up the floor for questions. If you have a question, you're welcome to post it in the chat box or unmute and ask directly.
Hi, Leah. You mentioned that, it can be really hard and a lot of work, right, to find some resources. And so you have to create. And, I think having that conversation with your students is so important. But like, how do you kind of get them motivated to do the work that's required, aside from, it is just for a grade, if you know what I mean?
Yes, I understand that exactly. You know what, I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to say that part of the reason I think that this works well for me in this particular class is I've had these students at least once, if not 3 times in classes already, which they, and so I can have those deeper conversations about, this is going to be a lot. I'm asking a lot of you, but here's all the positives that come with it. So I don't know yet if I'm going to do this with my junior level class, because we do some work in there that could definitely go into the OER system to just keep building that repository for OER Commons, which is education focused primarily. But yes, I think your role is just be there. Don't assign it and then they have to go off and do it on their own. I think the videos I created were definitely a great help for them. And the fact that I had already gone through the process and learned how to do this in my summer, they think we all have off. I think that helps motivate them as well. But yeah, go through that process and kind of what tips and tricks did you learn and how can you bring that into them as well?
I have a question. Have some of the text actually been used in the classroom? So this is not just a pedagogical exercise. Did some of the texts actually make it into the classroom setting and are used in elementary or secondary educational settings?
At the moment, because we've been doing it a little bit, so the students who first started this are in their first year teaching. So it hasn't had a lot of time to get out there. So as far as the people who are viewing this and saving it, I'm not quite sure where they are because I don't know if this particular site has a way to track that.
Yeah.
I do know that we are using it even in some of our online versions of our courses. They're using these student-based OER to teach them about these content areas, and then having to use that to, how can I show this in the classroom setting? So in a roundabout way, it is definitely being used. But that's why I always ask the students for feedback on other topics they feel would be good. And we added in 2 topics this semester for that reason. And those are definitely being used in their classrooms, even within their own teaching while they're out in the field, yes.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Other questions for Dr. Carruth? Again, feel free to post your question in the chat box or feel free to unmute and ask her directly. Everybody's real quiet. Must be lunchtime.
And that is fine. I will tell you that I love being able to do this and do it. If you have any inkling at all that you want to do something different, just try it. Here's my contact information again. You're welcome to reach out. I'm going to keep doing this, and I'm continuing to write the OER for my own courses because it's hard to find material for them, and the students appreciate it rather than buying a textbook. So it's kind of all encompassing for me right here and teacher education. But this goes way beyond teacher education. This could be done for any academic topic you can think of.
I see we have another question in the chat. Tom asks, did you run across anything unexpected in this project?
Well, I think as we first started, I think it was the lack of resources. For me, that was really unexpected. We've been teaching these concepts for a long time, and there's nothing out there OER wise, but we keep hearing the push to try to, build OER, adopt OER, and there really just wasn't a lot for the particular courses that I teach here. So for me, that wasn't unexpected. I think student performance is always, I never know, but this particular group, they asked the least amount of questions, and they actually had the strongest OER modules I have had this entire time. And I think, again, that's on them, but also the relationship that we've been able to build. So unexpected, not necessarily. Definitely some good surprises in there, but I don't think necessarily anything unexpected. It does take time. There are funding options available, and I think that always comes across too, is I don't have time to be able to do this, but if funding's there, maybe. So look into that opportunity as well.
Okay, thank you. Other questions before we wrap it up and call it a session? Okay, well, if nobody has any further questions. Thank you, Dr. Carruth, for joining us this afternoon. We enjoyed your presentation and look forward to some more great presentations later on in the conference.
Okay, thank you all very much. I appreciate your time and this opportunity.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.